So, one of the most anticipated episodes of Classroom of the Elite Season 4 is finally here. We have an actual full-fledged fight between Ayanokoji and Nanase. Something that hasn't happened since the end of Season 2 with Ayanokoji vs Ryuen. And this fight shocked pretty much every single light novel reader, including me, because what the hell was Nanase doing in this episode? I never expected to see her jumping 10 feet into the air and landing a downward strike on Koji like it's nothing. Not to mention her moving faster than actual battle shonen characters. You know, I'd normally clown on this episode saying that it doesn't make sense for a high schooler to be moving like this, but man, after suffering through the slideshow of season 2 and 3, seeing an actually animated fight scene just gets me so freaking hyped up, no matter how absurd it actually feels. This was easily one of the best episodes of Classroom of the Elite in its entirety, and I feel like it managed to live up to the expectations fans of the light novel had for this episode. This episode was so hyped up, not just because of the action, but because it's also the episode where shit hits the fan and doesn't slow down for the rest of the island arc. After so many setup episodes in a row, we're finally into the payoff episodes, and Studio Lurch managed to really surprise me for this finale of Volume 3, which this episode adapts. I'll be honest, I was very skeptical on whether this episode would deliver on the hype because of how they adapted the Hosen fight in episode 4, but I'm very happy that my worries were unfounded. The Hosen fight had a lot of shaky camera movements in place of actual animation, janky animation whenever things did move, and the ugly filter and sudden rain which completely ruined the most impactful moment of the episode. Episode 12, however, was handled so much better. There were no ugly filters, we had some actually great 2D action animation, along with some character acting animation as well for Nanase's breakdown, and the entire scene had great compositing. If I had to nitpick, there were some of the action cuts that felt a bit janky, and they were using the shaky camera in some moments, but ultimately it's not that big of a deal. I'm really hoping that some of the later fights, especially the biggest fight of the season, will be more polished than this episode though. I feel like they have to go all out for the climax of the whole season, and I'll be kinda disappointed if they don't. Moving back to the episode, I wanna know what anime only's thought about the whole deal with Nanase's split personality. I remember thinking this plotline was a bit cringe in the light novel, but there's more than enough foreshadowing in the light novel to expect something like this. There are multiple scenes in Volume 1 where she refers to herself with different pronouns, and Ayanokoji finds it strange in his monologues. In comparison, the hints were very subtle in the anime because you don't have Ayanokoji pointing out whenever she switches her pronouns. During her backstory near the end of the episode, we also get to see the face of her boyfriend for the first time. He didn't have any illustrations in the light novel, so both anime onlys and LN readers are seeing him for the first time in this episode. And her backstory also confirms that she isn't the White Room student. Getting rid of Ayanokoji wasn't her end goal, it was just something she had to do in order to meet his father. That's why you can see her hesitating more and more as she continues to travel with Ayanokoji on the island. There's also another piece of information about Nanase's backstory that makes her a way more interesting character, but it's a spoiler for the later volumes of Year 2, so I don't wanna spoil it here. Now talking about Ayanokoji, he was really cool in this episode, and it was so hype seeing him block every single one of Nanase's attacks and then counting the number of times she would have gotten hit. I can't even lie, he was cold as hell in this episode, especially during the ending, where we get to hear his monologue on how he really feels about Nanase. Something to note in this monologue is that Ayanokoji doesn't actually talk about how he differs from his father in the light novel compared to the anime. I believe that was a line from a later volume that the anime added into this scene in order to make it more impactful. Now, as much as I love the fight between Koji and Nanase, it wasn't even my favorite part of the episode, because Ichika putting Kushida in her place is one of my favorite moments of this entire island exam. Even if we put aside Kushida's true personality and just how evil she is, She has been picking fights with almost every single big shot in the entire series, saying that she's gonna get them expelled. And now, she finally gets put in her place by Ichika, who is one of my favorite Cote characters by the way. Her presence is always mesmerizing no matter what she's doing, and getting to see her slapping the shit out of Kushida gave me so much inexplicable joy. You might think I'm a Kushida hater based on the way I'm talking about her, but I actually think she's a great character, and she makes the story way more interesting because of her two-faced personality and the way she is always trying to backstab someone and just how narcissistic she is. Just like Ichika said, you can't help but respect that level of stubbornness and pure hater energy. Last but not least, we had Ichinose eavesdropping on Tsukishiro and learning about the White Room and his plan to get rid of Ayanokoji. And I'm sure that's gonna lead to some very interesting drama and spicy moments for anime onlys. But anyways, that's pretty much all I have to say for this episode. Easily one of the best Classroom of the Elite episodes. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed the video and comment down below who do you think is trying to attack Koji at the end of the episode. Also, consider subscribing for more Classroom of the Elite and just anime content in general. Peace.